Sure.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Hello. We are a few days into Diablo 2 launch.
Yeah, we're just talking about throwing some ideas at the wall, seeing if we should change the podcast name to Hellforge instead of Lightforge.
I know, right? But look, we're definitely going to talk about D2 some, but first we have this annoying, old, outdated game that we have to talk about called Hearthstone.
I like this comment from Twitch chat from Advanced Wind. Advanced Wind says, Hearthstone, is that the name of a new rune word?
Yeah.
Which is coming. They're making new rune words. More importantly, they need to freaking nerf the old rune words. Like, what the hell? I have actually never properly played ladder, or not ladder, just like any kind of BattleNet D2 with the latest rounds of rune words. They are crazy.
They are crazy, yes. Okay, so before you get me started on that, should we actually talk about what we have been talking about for like 300 episodes?
Yeah, okay, so we'll talk about this new rune word, Hearthstone. They made a patch. It's called patch 21.3. We talked about the BGs part of it, actually, so this won't be that long, because everything that they data mined happened on the BG side. So if you want our analysis of the changes and whether we like it or not, go listen to the previous episode. We did that for like an hour.
Yep. Look, I'm gonna tell it like it is. I have not played BGs since because I've either been really, really busy with work or really, really busy getting my Sork up to like level 81. So yeah, that has not happened. Okay. BGs, here's what I understand. Like, once again, I never want to over-represent what I know. So I'm going to tell you guys I know nothing, and here is the little bit that I know. After the nerfs to, like, frogs, after the nerfs to kind of like some of the heroes as well, what happens is now there are actual compositions that kind of work. For example, Gem Splitter is a legit kind of, comp and scaling unit now. It's crazy. It's opened things a little bit back up. So that I like to see. I've said this before, and I think everyone like really does agree with it. It's problematic whenever Tess is good in any meta. That's the canary in the coal mine. If Tess is good, that means the meta is messed up in some fundamental way. And Tess was really good. Like, you were happy to pick Tess when beasts were in. That was always a problem, right? So they had to fix that. Still upset that they didn't fix McCall or do anything to it, but that's
not what they're going for. They're fixing their current vision.
They're fixing their current vision. So look, that is absolutely fine. I'm okay with that. That's kind of it. Like, I will play BGs at some point again, but until then, I'm glad to see that things seem to be a little bit better. Okay, and if I'm wrong, you can tweet at me. You can let me know. But it was just things were so bad before.
Things are terrible.
Yeah, so look, that's a good thing, and I'm glad that Blizzard responded, although they just really had to respond.
All right, now on the Arena side, things were not good, and then they actually did stuff, which was a surprise, I think, to many people, because usually when October rolls around, there's this dual class event, and Arena gets spun into whatever. Even there's no dual class event, we're really getting close to the point in which they do a rotation. So it was really unclear that they would ever push the button again, so close to whatever the next update was. But they did push the button. More than pushing the button, they fixed the offering rate bug, which they finally confirmed is a bug. That has Epic's offering rates being the same as like common cards. It's why you see clowns all the time, right? And rabbits. And it's been the case since I think June was when it was introduced. So we've been kind of just living with it and treating it as a normal thing. But they fixed it. So now, offering odds are what they're supposed to be. While doing both of those, on top of that, they banned Mount for Hunter. They banned the ramming Mount. The card that was, holding Hunter up and, making Hunter amazing, and is super terrible, very hard to play around, and just single-handedly wins 100 games. It is now the only class card, that Blizzard has ever banned that is not a legendary, and after they had micro adjust. So before micro adjust, they banned a whole bunch of cards and classes as a way to adjust class offering rates, right? They didn't like ban the best cards or anything. They banned stuff like Snow Chugger. But since those rounds of bans and their reinstatement, since we've had offering odds adjustments that Blizzard was able to do that, they have not banned any class cards, only neutral cards, and like certain and I'm thinking hero cards, right? So those are technically class cards, but those got banned. But otherwise, only neutrals. So this is the first class card that they banned, and honestly, Ramming Mount is terrible, and it would be at the top of anyone's list in any meta to ban as a class card. But I don't know that it's like in a different category than something like Performers. Yeah, it could come on turn 3 instead of turn 7, but the win rates and the impact on the meta are all very similar. So with the banning of Ramming Mount, I don't know. I think it opens up the potential for quite a few more cards to be banned in the arena going forward. What do you think?
I think so. Look, this is one of those situations where I hope they are just a little bit more proactive instead of reactive, because Ramming Mount is something that I think everyone anticipates, right? There are certain there's going to be some cards which I think people disagree on, with predictions. Ramming Mount, I felt a lot more strongly about it than some people did, but even like the people who didn't feel as strongly as I did, like you were just like, yes, this is very problematic, and I'm just like, this is game brokenly problematic, and that's the only disagreement that we had. I remember in Dreads' review, if I don't know if you got enough time to watch stuff like that for entertainment, he was just like, yeah, this is going to be unfun to play against, right? And that's a lot of the problem. It's like, you can have some powerful cards. You never want something that is demoralizing to play against. And that is the definition of Ramming Mount. It is demoralizing to play against. So everybody could have seen that. Like, you look at a card like that and you're just like, this sucks. Like, for a format like Arena, this shouldn't be in there, because this is just like game ending on turn 3. This really sucks. Does that remind you of something? It's like, as soon as, if they're able to like play it on turn 3,
and you can't remove it somehow and it has way more health than it should at the time.
Yeah, and it's like, do you 100% lose on the spot? Maybe not, but like, do they swing it in their favor so much and it feels really bad because there was really nothing you could do about it? Yeah, that just really sucks. So like, look, if everybody saw that coming, right? If the only difference in everyone's prediction of Ramming Mount was that everyone agreeing, yes, this is a toxic card, and just disagreeing, is it S tier, is it A tier? Let's be a little bit more proactive. I don't mind that. And I understand some people have like, a slippery slope argument. It's like, maybe we just want stuff to be in the arena and see how it goes. I like that if they're able to respond swiftly. Like, after 3 days, they see Ramming Mount. You have enough stats in the first 3 days to see like, oh shit, if they land this, like, I mean, obviously in turn 3, but really, like, any point of the game when the game is like somewhat close or in contention, and the Ramming Mount player just wins, like, let's kind of, I don't know, be proactive, and let's just ban it ahead of time if everyone thinks this is going to happen. And that's the fine.
3-day, yeah. I mean, the 3-day reactive, I think, is a good middle ground, because I think Blizzard just kind of doesn't trust like the community in like rating cards, even though we have like I forgot which episode it was, but it was right after Stormwind came out. I kind of presented, or sorry, it was right after why am I blanking on the card's name? This is what happens after you nerf a card. I no longer remember its name. The double Wind Fury guy? Battlemaster?
Battlemaster. Battlemaster.
After the Battlemaster nerf, I kind of presented every single time. We, as the Lightforge podcast or the Grinning Goat, has asked for a card to be banned pre-release in neutral. And also rated it as the number one, valued card on our tier list. When those two factors combine, it was like an astounding rate of cards that Blizzard did eventually have to nerf. Or ban from the arena, but mostly nerf, because it was even too ridiculous for constructed. Like, that's like when I saw, like, I was compiling it myself and I was like, oh, I wonder, how our hit rate was. And then I realized, oh my god, not only was our hit rate really good, but these are not just cards that were arena problematic. These were cards that were constructed problematic. And we know very little about constructed, but we know what values cards can do before they just get crazy. And those were just crazy cards for their respective metas. So, like, these are preventable, but even if Blizzard does not want to trust, people with very good track records in releasing their cards, they can at least react really fast. And this is a great first step. And even just on purely reactive, right? Merps is talking about being preemptive with it. Even on purely reactive, we're talking performers here. There's Inquisitor. There's like potentially so many cards that are game-changingly bad for the arena that you can just ban and no one will miss them, or very few people will miss them. Way more people will be happy that they're gone than the few people who missed them. And I don't just mean of good players. I mean of your average player in the arena will feel the same way because they feel like shit when they get destroyed by these cards. That they're like, what? Especially if they don't even know these cards exist. They're like, what? How could this card exist? Like, these are reactions from, like, when Collins, like, came back to the arena and, like, played a few games and saw some of the new cards. He was just like, what? How? What?
That was hilarious. Like, I remember doing a co-op with Collins out of the blue. This was, like, a few months ago. And then I'm, like, talking him through the meta. And then, like, he's looking at cards. and it's just, like, it was such good content. I don't know if anyone here saw that. But I would be like, okay, so Collins, we got to watch out for this card. He's like, what's that? And I tell it to him, and he just, like, do his, like, Collins laugh, that, like, contagious, just, like, uproarious laugh. And he was just being, he wasn't saying it, but it was, within his laugh was the context of, I can't believe this shit.
Yeah,
it's just insane.
It's just... Anyway. We'll see what Blizzard does with this in the future. I have not been recommending bans for class cards for a very long time because I just assumed Blizzard would never do it. Class cards can only be so problematic because you're naturally limited to how often you get to pick a certain class. And then they micro adjust it on top. Sorry, they do offering odds adjustment on top of it. The class is too good, and they can adjust these cards down so that they're almost banned, right? Like, think of SAP. Back in the day. Like, SAP didn't exist in the arena for a long time. You would see one, like, once out of every, like, 200 games against a rogue or something that's not generated because it was just almost disappearing. But here, they just outright ban it. And I think that's the more honest way to do it than to just super lower the offering odds. Because if you're lowering the offering odds to, like, 5% of what they should be, you're pretty much banning the card. Anyway, there's still people, and I hear this complaint a lot, and I just want to address it. People are like, oh, but you can generate it. Okay, you can still draft Ysera. Like, generation is a problem, but generating banned cards is not something that's that easy to do on Blizzard's side, and really, it is much less of a problem than letting the card be drafted, especially if the card is like a common or something. We're talking, like, hugely different degrees. And remember, if you're talking about generation cards in, like, Hunter, now you're talking about something like you have to be able to select Hunter. You have to select Hunter. You have to be able to select the generation card that you want to select the generation card. You have to play the generation card. The generation card, and when you're playing it, you don't know that you're going to get it. The generation card then has to really randomly, out of all the spells or all the class cards or all the whatever, give you that particular card. And then on the same turn, or maybe you'll have it later, but then that makes the card worse because you can't play it on the same turn, you have to have a minion with initiative. Like, there's so many ifs at that point that you're just like, yes, this is one of the many, 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 many crazy things, and not even among the worst crazy things that happens in Hearthstone when you, like, put enough ifs in front of things. So it's just, I'm not going to say it's not a problem, but we are at, like, 5% the problem that it used to be.
Yeah, look, I would like for quite a few things to be solved as well. Many people are talking about it's like, okay, well, if it's banned, I want to make sure it can't be discovered. I would like that as well. Like I think that would be good because it just makes it more infuriating for me. Like even though it's banned, I'm like, great, it's a banned card, fantastic. But it's like plugging holes on the Titanic, kind of. It's like we got to sort of prioritize here. So, yes, I am with you guys. I would like for that as well. I think there are many other things, I guess, we need to focus on first.
Okay, now let's talk about. So we're going to get to the new cards, the buff cards, because Blizzard also buffed a bunch of cards for constructive reasons that'll have arena impact. But they also keep in mind all the stuff we're talking about, right? They're changing cards around. They are hitting the offering rate adjustment button based on previous data. They are removing one of the dominant cards in the entire meta as of the previous data. And they're totally shifting around all the offering rates on epics, which affects every single class in the entire meta. Some of the best epic cards are in Priest. Some of the other best epic cards are 9 mana and 10 mana in Clown and Rabbit. So you're talking about so many moving pieces. And when you do so many moving pieces, you can't balance something. Not on that shot. So when I saw how many changes went into this, I was immediately like, so this balancing patch is going to make Arena worse. Not better. Good for, them doing a bunch of stuff, but if they don't come up with a follow-up patch, and they haven't, and, as we tick down into October, I feel like this meta, at least, is not going to get an actual balancing patch after this. The meta is worse, statistically. Warlock, which was the best class before, is now even higher win rate. It is now sitting at 55.8% win rate. Even though, presumably, they got micro-adjusted down. Why? Because the meta has totally shifted. But without talking about... The other classes at the top now are Demon Hunter and Warrior. We're playing Warrior later. We've waited long enough for Warrior to go from the bottom to the top. Now we can play it. Now we can start playing the Coop again. And then Paladin after that. Hunter sits at 49%, which is not bad at all. And then there's a Shaman, Mage, Druid at 47, 46, 45, coming down to you don't really want to start touching these. But then you have Rogue and Priest at the bottom. Rogue is at 41%, Priest is barely 40%. This is not unpredictable. You have Priest, who favors a certain play style and has really, really good epic cards, and all of that just got trashed. And Priest was doing well enough, but it's not like Priest's offering rates got nerfed. Priest just didn't get a boost, and other people did get a boost, and the entire meta shifted against Priest. That was all very predictable as far as the Priest being down here. Warlock staying at the top, I couldn't have predicted it, but you move so many pieces around, especially with Blizzard, and you don't even know how much you're moving each of these pieces, you're going to have a problem. Mage is at 46%. I don't know, I would have expected Mage to do better. But it's not. And I'll go into why I expected Mage to do better. I expected Mage to do better because they upgraded a whole bunch of cards. So we'll talk about the nerfs to cards and then the buffs to cards. So first, they nerfed some cards. These are, full game nerfs. Irebound Brute, which was a 7-mana 6/7 taunt for Demon Hunters that cost 1 less for each card drawn this turn, which usually just ends up being like a Boulder Fist Ogre with a taunt, but sometimes, can go for lower. They added a mana to it, so it's not even worse in Arena. It used to be a pretty good card, but not great. Now it's going to be a pretty bad card in Arena. Mindrender, Elusio's getting changed. Don't care. It's a legendary. Perpetual Flame for Shaman got nerfed to be 2 mana rather than 1 mana. The Overload is still Overload 1, but the initial cost is now higher. So it's not actually as big of a nerf as you may think, being 2 mana instead of 1 mana, because what is making this card really good is not the fact that it is a 1 mana card. It's really the fact that it can trigger again and again for an overload of only 1. But in Arena, you sometimes use things for weird reasons, so it still does have an effect. Your downside cases are more penalized. They also changed some Tame the Flame, which is a quest line. Don't care. Demon Seed, questline, don't care. Rune Mithril Rod got nerfed. I actually had two people play this card against me in Arena. I don't know if we just thought it sucked in Arena. It was secretly not super, super terrible. It actually wasn't super, super terrible when they were used against me, which I was surprised about. But either way, this got nerfed from 3 mana to 4 mana. Rune Mithril Rod is the O2 weapon that after you draw 4 cards, reduce the cost of the cards in your hand by 1. Anyway, so those are the nerfs, not hugely impactful to Arena, but the buffs. First buff, Hunter, Leatherworking Kit. Used to be a 2 mana 0/3. After 3 friendly beasts die, draw a beast and give it +1/+1, lose 1 durability. Now it is only 1 mana. It was bad. Now it's probably kind of usable, I think. Especially if you have like some of the spells that Hunter has that generates a whole bunch of beasts, or like a Desert Spear. Because I've seen Leatherworking Kit be not terribly used in decks. Like, just as it was. And by dropping a 1 mana, especially as Hunter, which is very mana starved during the times when you actually have cards that could generate beasts, it actually is like a good card for certain decks. Moving on, Selective Breeder used to be a 2 mana 1/1 Battlecry. Discover a copy of a beast in your deck, which was like not great. And now it is a 2 mana 1/3. Discover a copy of a beast in your deck. So it is better. Not like game changingly good or anything, but it gets better. Now here's the card I want to talk about, which is Wildfire. In Mage, Wildfire got reduced from 2 mana to 1 mana. This is the one that permanently increases the damage of your hero power by 1. 1 mana Wildfire is absolutely insane. Because the problem with Wildfire is that you would have to spend some turn spending 4 mana to deal 2 damage. And now you only have to spend 3 mana, and you can get it out earlier. You can squeeze it into a turn that you're not even using your hero power on, because it's just a throwaway 1 mana card. This card got so much better for Arena, and it was already like an okay card in Arena. It lets you really go into that long game. Or start becoming a hunter, right? So this change, it makes this a really good card in the Arena. The problem is the epic nerf makes it not offered as frequently anymore. But if you do get offered it, this is a game changer now.
Yeah. Look, I totally agree with the Wildfire. People have pointed out something which I think really is the thing that was holding mages back. It's that they fixed/changed the epic offering rate, right? That was one of the things that they did.
Oh,
and
box.
Puzzle Box is huge. And okay,
that's fair. I didn't think about that.
Puzzle Box, and also if you play Mage anytime recently, you understand. Okay, what are the epics that like really define the meta? There's two that I can think of: BGH and Primordial Protector, right? Like those two things are pretty prevalent, as in people pick it a decent amount. BGH gets value. Primordial Protector is probably BGH helps mages sort of like play the long game. Primordial Protector with like the Flame Strike and Puzzle Box will always draw something big and draw something game changing, right? It'll draw that Flame Strike, it'll draw that Puzzle Box,
and Flame Strike is also epic. I forgot.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So that is like one of those things that was really, it helps everyone, but man, that was really propping up mages. So them nerfing epics really hurt mages more than other classes.
Got it. That makes sense. So I mean, mage is not good right now. Moving down, Moldresh Fire Eye got buffed from a 10 mana 10/10 to an 8 mana 8/8. This is a legendary mage card where if you've dealt 10 damage with your hero power this game, deal 10 damage to all enemies. Whatever. Stormwind Freebooter for Warrior got buffed. Battlecry. It was a 3 mana 3/3. Battlecry, give your hero +2 attack this turn, which is already insanely good enough.
It was really good. Like, if you play with that card, you were like, oh man, I'm happy to get this. The only time you were unhappy was like an empty
Yeah.
board. But at that time, you're like, okay, well, do I have some other play? Hopefully, like, you know, because it's really not worth it to play it there. That kind of sucks. So hopefully you have another play. But otherwise, yeah, it's
It's
fantastic.
3 mana. This stuff costs like 4 mana. This is basically a crappy version of Fireplume Phoenix, which costs 4 mana. There's that Shaman spell, Storm Strike, that does the same exact thing, but deals 3 damage instead of 2, and that costs 1 extra mana for that 1 extra damage. This was already an insane card. Not like game winning by itself, but like we would have rated it, I don't know, B plus. Like probably,
it's good. It's
like
very
it's
good.
really good. And now it's a 3/4 instead of a 3/3, so it has no downsides now, and that'll bring it up to A- or an A on our scale. So it is now a premium card for Warrior, and it is common, and it is a pirate. On top of that,
a pirate, yeah,
and a pirate. On top of that, another pirate got buffed, which is Stonewall Anchorman. Stonewall Anchorman is another common. It shows up a lot. Pretty much every warrior deck has one, and it is very good. It's 5 mana, 4/5 rush, and Frenzy, draw a card, which means it's almost always drawing a card, and it's dealing 4 damage, and it's leaving a body on the board. Like, it was just always a really good card. They thought it wasn't good enough, so now it gained an extra health, so it's 4/6. Which makes it even easier to trigger in case you had trouble finding something with 4 attack or less before. Now you can find something with 5 attack and it'll still be fine, and it just like has a bigger body. And finally, a third pirate got buffed, another normal pirate for Warrior. Bloodsail Deckhand was a 1 mana 2/1 battlecry. Next weapon you play costs 1 less. It was not a great card, but it was like potentially draftable. It's now a 1 mana 2/2. Battlecry, the next weapon you play costs 1 less. So now it is a very good card.
Like, why did they need a Raven with upside? I don't understand. Why did they ever need a Raven with upside?
I mean, look, are any of these cards, blowing the roof off of, how good class cards are for Warriors? No, they're not setting new standards, but they're all hitting very close, if not at the top of the lines that Warrior has. And Warrior just has a lot of really, really good, insane cards for Arena. So it's not a surprise that Warrior is now number 3 in win rate. Between these cards and the micro adjusts. Yep, number 3 in win rate. Very close to number 2, which was Demon Hunter.
Pretty good.
So with these, you kind of see what you're dealing with. Warlock, Demon Hunter, Warrior. You are and Paladin. Those are your top 4 classes. So what's the meta? You're pushing. You're on the board. It's tempo. It was always tempo. Now it's even more tempo. And the people that can swing tempo, especially on the early side, they're the ones that win. Warlock has this insane advantage of also not running out of cards. But everyone's playing Zoo into potentially like just faster tempo kind of cards. Remember, the epics are gone. Your big anchoring cards, which were already very thinned down because Ashes of Outlands and Skullman's Academy are gone, and now took another hit. I mean, this one was a bugged hit, but it's how the meta changes. So now we're playing in a even more tempo-y, upticked kind of meta.
Yep.
Well, now we're done with this Hearthstone rune word thing. Let's talk about Hell Diablo. Diablo 2 Resurrected is here. This is, it's not question from the GOAT. It's just, we're just going to talk about Diablo because we've been playing Diablo a lot, and, this is what's on our minds. We'll talk about Diablo 2 for a while. But before we do that, I want to give a shout out to our patrons who, have always been very supportive of us, and a good part of your funds, I mean, really, all of your funds for this year and last year and probably the year before that have gone into this computer that we're using to be able to run Diablo 2 and enjoy our experience even more.
Yes, we are very happy with it. So thank you all for your monies and for your support.
Thank you to all the patrons. And the top patrons of the month are RV Night Train, Yin, 15 Gold Cringe, Eric L, Aaron LS, Dan F, Karova, Ari G, 4P and brand new. Thank you guys so much for all of your support.
All right. So, welcome to the Hellforge podcast. This is Merps, true Diablo 2 aficionado. Waited for this for like my entire freaking life. And also there's some scrub named Avta who says
okay, this is what happened. All right. Diablo came out, I don't know, 2001 or something. I'm sorry, Diablo 2. And Diablo 2's expansion came out 2003. I don't know. I'm getting my dates mixed up. I think Diablo 2 expansion came out 2001.
It came out earlier than 2001.
Oh, it came out early 2001, even the expansion. But the point is, yeah, so like we graduated high school in 2004, and like way before we graduated high school, I think by like sophomore year, like by the end of sophomore year, not a lot of people were playing Diablo 2 anymore. We picked it up again in college and played single player for a bit. And then sometime in like grad school was like the last time I touched it. And I was like, all right, we've played this game to death. It's been, really been playing this game for almost half of the life that I remember. So it's a very old game. I will play some newer games now. And apparently Merps didn't stop. And I kept playing Diablo 2 and still play Diablo 2 up to this day. So I played Diablo on launch night. Merps was like, I can't play with you because I'm level 50 and you're level 1. This is me starting to play at 7 p.m., which is way too late apparently. So I'm like, okay, well, the next day we have to stream, so you have to play with us. What are you going to do? And then when the stream time came, which was 7 o'clock, these are all work days, by the way. We have day jobs. These are work days. Merps have been locked out of playing the game for almost the entire day because of some, I don't know, bug or whatever. You could talk about it afterwards. But we got his account back from a coordinated Twitter effort. So the devs took notice. Yeah? You tweeted, just accept your privilege as a streamer. You tweeted and 8 minutes later.
Privilege, okay.
You tweeted
streamer privilege.
After 7 hours of not having your account unlocked, you tweeted and 8 minutes later your account got unlocked. That just happened. You still believe that was just your turn.
Okay, buddy.
Okay. Right. Anyway. Merps was level, what was it? You were 68 by that point when you were you were helping us power level.
They didn't want me to get to 69. They were afraid of the power I would have once I got to 69.
So I admit that Merps and I are on different levels when it comes to playing Diablo 2. I played like 4 hours on the 2 weeknights that it was launched each, and then I played most of the day on Saturday. Merps played like triple that.
I tried to play more, but I couldn't, okay? I could not. The game prevented me from doing it. But, okay, so here's my only complaint about the game itself. It's not about the game. It is just about the way that characters have been stuck. I won't get into everything, but it's been really annoying. But the game, in terms of, if you remember, we talked about this on previous Lightforges as well. I'm fine with them remaking it. I'm also fine with them coming out with it and just redoing the graphics, and for me to just experience it. And part of the product here is just everyone experiencing it at the same time. And I get that BattleNet feeling again, because that's something that you can't create without a unifying force like Blizzard doing it and then everyone wanting to get back in. And it has been really, really freaking fun. Oh my god, it's been so freaking fun. The graphics are better than I could have ever hoped for. And let's just face it, it's just a skin. It's a skin for an old game. But damn, does the skin look good. Because you can always press G to look at what the game used to look like, and you're just like, I used to play this.
I used to dedicate most of my waking hours to this.
Yes. Yes, you did. That's what you used to do. So
that's Diablo 2. And I mean, you can also tell by how good the graphics are, by what the engine is doing. we had to get new computers because the old computers couldn't run this game on Macs. Even though it's like a really old engine running in the background that probably isn't using up a lot of resources. Just the graphics were eating up so much that our computers, which, you know, they were kind of ancient. We've had those computers for 6 years, but they were like midline when we bought them for a gaming PC. But still, like, yeah, you would think that it's not that graphics intensive. So these new computers, thank you guys so much, are amazing. We got our 4K screens. We are running everything at full max while streaming also. I mean, we're not streaming in 4K, but we're playing in 4K, streaming downscale to 1080p and running everything all at once on this computer, and it's all working. So that was what our goal was, because we needed to do it with games at around this caliber for the 4K monitor to be worth it. So thank you guys. This has been an excellent experience. But yeah, talk about the game besides just how good you feel. Like I feel like I'm a more realistic person. Like Merps is just super obsessed with it. Like you're not on his level and you're not on his wavelength, and you can't get the pleasure that he gets from it unless you've also been playing this game for like literally 20 years, like with only brief stops in the middle.
You know how some people are like, "Oh, it's not a game; it's a lifestyle." No. Like that's a joke, but this is not a joke. Like when it comes to Diablo 2 and me, like this is a lifestyle. That's the only way you can keep playing this game. Like not in the resurrected form, but in the shitty like pixelated form that I have kept playing it for freaking forever.
Like it didn't get to the point where you needed to like download other stuff so the game would even run on the new like operating system or whatever.
No, you didn't have to. You didn't have to do that.
Oh, okay.
What you had to do was just like download stuff to make it such that it's what they did with Resurrected, which is like, hey, you want the benefits that ladder players get, right? Because it's really stupid. Like a lot of the ladder rune words are the most powerful by far.
Yes, and because they're terrible.
No,
we want to talk about design decisions in gaming. Yeah, oh my god, Diablo 2 went off like the later patches really they did something.
No, I look, I'm with you there, all right? I understand what you are talking about, and I agree with you.
But yeah.
However, yes, the game. Let me just say, this is the most common question I get. And the question is, Merps, I have not played Diablo 2, so I don't know if I will enjoy it or not. Will I enjoy the game? And it's always a tough question to answer because different people have different tastes, so let's break it down. It's a game that I think has aged better than a lot of old games.
It has aged better than 95% of old games.
Yes. So it has aged like very well. But okay, so here are things that is good about it. Number one, if you haven't played before, it is hard in a brutal way, like which some people enjoy, right?
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have that perspective because obviously I've been playing this game a while. But is it really hard if you play like on single player players 1?
Yeah, it is because people mess up their stats, mess up their skills. They are not optimized. They try to go melee untwinked KEKW. Like, do you know? Like, you've seen how hard that is. That's hard, man.
Okay.
Hell just slaps you in the face as well because of all the immunes, right?
Okay. Yeah.
People get to Hell and they're like, this game wasn't meant to be beat. Like, the game just wasn't meant to be beat. And then of course, like we think of it differently. I'm just like, okay, am I able to beat Hell in like by the end of the second day, or do I have to wait until like the third?
Yeah. If I'm playing untwinked, you know, can I do like players 4, players 6, players 8?
Yeah. So look, the game is hard. It presents a lot of challenges. It has a very good kind of like slot machine mechanic to it. So look, by now we have a lot of these games. You know, some people have played like Torchlight, right? Some people have played some PoE, but haven't played D2. Look, I mean, PoE, Torchlight, it's all kind of like following D2 and all of that. I would say D2's pace in sort of like getting you these skills, getting you these items, still very good. One thing that is severely outdated is the end game. because all you do is like
There
for
is no
newer,
end game.
there is no end game. You just go to old spots on the highest difficulty and you grind those to find items. So the end game in Diablo 2 is the one thing where if you're used to newer games, if you're used to newer games, because they always have some dedicated form of end game in one way or another. You're gonna be like, wait, this is weird. Like you might still enjoy it, but you will automatically look at it and be like, this is weird. So I would say that's the only thing. However, overall, I would still recommend it if you're just an action RPG fan, because if you enjoy action RPGs of any kind, they derive something from Diablo 2. Like it's impossible the action RPG genre, like especially the isometric action RPG genre, uh, like was heavily influenced by Diablo 2. So you'll find lots of familiar things. I think you'll enjoy it. They made this game like just so immersive as well. Like they understood what was appealing about the lore, about the art style, and they went all in on that. So it's something in which, like, look, you don't have to be like me and try to optimize. It's like, okay, by the end of day 3, I want to be able to find like high runes and every item in the game, etc., etc. If you just want more of a casual experience as well, play through it. It might even take you like a month to get through like to even get into the middle of hell or something, but you just want to enjoy the challenge. And it will be challenging the first time you play if you're not reading a million guides. It just absolutely will be. I think it's still a very good experience. I think it holds up extraordinarily well. So yeah, that's the question I get the most. And so for those of you who haven't played D2, or maybe just played it a little bit when it came out and forgot all about it, that is my recommendation. This is coming from a guy who has played for like tens of thousands of hours. So I have a biased view, but whenever I give this kind of review, I'm always just like, you have to recognize, right? Like, because this is an old game, it just has a fresh coat of paint. Like, can I still recommend this? And for me, I can, just because the game holds up well. And yeah, so try it out, enjoy it. I'm still so happy playing it. Like it's so it's such a breath of fresh air, because it's the same game, but it's just nice to experience everything all over again one more time.
Yeah. Um, I would say if you're a returning player and you played it back in the day and you haven't played it in 10, 15 years, it's definitely worth coming back to. The price tag is $40, which is a little steep, but if you don't care about the price tag or you don't have a lot of games left on your list that you like, want to play, this is a guaranteed good time. You can play by yourself, jump on the ladder, especially if you have any friends that are, potentially jumping back too. Like Diablo 2 it's fun to play by yourself, but it's so much better to play with like anybody else, even if you're not on voice comms, just like running through the like dungeons. Because especially if it's a friend, you find something, right, and you're like, oh my god, we found a whatever insert item or whatever. Personally, I like to play untwinked like files because, like I said, the stuff gets insane. Like I don't just mean the enemies, I mean the items get insane. And if you're playing out on BattleNet, in a couple of weeks, the items floating around there that you can pretty much, get to do the end game. It makes most of what you can find without a dedicated Magic Find character totally pointless. And you would have to basically need to enjoy the playing a dedicated Magic Find character to then get Magic Find equipment, very specific sets of Magic Find equipment, because it's not worth it to get any other kinds of equipment. Of only possibly 3 different character types, maybe 4, that can do this kind of magic finding. There's a few options of where to magic find, but it's more or less the same deal. And then just kind of like do that, and
Just do it.
that's the game.
That is the game. Yes.
So like when Merps talks about the lack of end game, that's what they mean by there's no end game. You kind of build your own end game, and what the community usually builds, especially when there's no ladder, is just like find better stuff, I guess. You can try to level to 99. That becomes kind of brutal later on, but you can do it, and that just involves a bunch of grinding too. The challenges don't get that much more difficult past a certain point. There's no endless dungeon aspect in Diablo 2, but the journey until you get to the point in which you can beat hell consistently that's always fun. And it's not that time intensive if you're on BattleNet. If you're playing by yourself in a solo file untwinked, it will take a long time. But yeah,
Yep.
it's a good time.
It's still a really good time. I'm still very very happy playing it. I was dead tired by the end of Thursday because of work and everything. But when I booted up D2, and at that time I still wasn't having any problems with it yet. But I was so happy. I was like so happy just because I get to see this game, and it really is a part of the experience is just seeing the community like being alive again and getting that BNet experience. Like I played Pluggy a lot, which is the first player one, and it's just because I enjoyed the game. But being part of like an active BNet is something else. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's something else as well. So yeah, I encourage you guys to check it out.
So
There are so many guides out there. I will just say
yeah, because the game,
this.
remember, the game is the exact same underlying mechanics as
Yes.
the like original game as of the latest patch like 1.14 E or F or whatever they ended up at. So any old guides, as long as they're of patch 1.14 or 1.15, they are just as good as anything written in the last like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, and I'll shout out a couple of creators that I have watched throughout the years. I mean, first of all, there's Mr. Llama SC, who's probably the most famous D2 streamer right now, but he makes a ton of videos. His stuff is very informative. I like Dobrunsky. He streams on Twitch, but he also has a ton of YouTube videos, which are very informative. There's also Cooley. He has YouTube videos, but those are three guys that I watch their D2 content. I have watched it for quite a few years. They're entertaining, they're informative. So I would point you to them for like really detailed D2 stuff because this game is very deep. And I'm not saying they intentionally made it deep, but it was 2000 and the game explained nothing to you. And there are some mechanics which are really stupid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. By deep,
um,
what Merps means is dumb.
yes,
The
that's
complexity born out of like just broken and bad decision making, and the worst part is that the team
and the
didn't even like.
limitations.
Oh yeah,
The
also
tech,
the technical limitations. Yep. So they
yeah,
had to like change and patch some things to make it even more nonsensical and weird. But it's not unapproachable. Just don't try to
no.
think of it in a way that like it has to make sense by today's standards, and just accept it as like this is this powerful, this is that powerful, right? Like, and then you'll be fine.
And you'll be fine. There you go.
So yeah, so if you look at Metacritic, Diablo 2 Resurrected has a critic score of 83 based on only 6 reviews. I think that's probably fair. I think it could get a couple points more than that, but I mean, how how high of a score can you get when you don't change the game, right? Like, it's done well for what it is, but there are still some problems when it comes to like logins and things like that. That's kind of marring the game. And if you look at the user score from 400 ratings, it's a 4.5. It's a 4.5 because people can't play, and it's a 4.5 because the game crashes every hour, and it's a 4.5. I don't know, but don't listen to the 4.5. That's a review bomb happening. This game is
And I understand people are like understandably frustrated, right? Like, but it doesn't reflect the game
I
itself.
hate review bombing. I hate all forms of review bombing. I don't care if it's because like you can't get in the game. I don't care if it's because of like DRM. I don't care if it's because you need like this like insanely powerful system to run, or like I don't know, Blizzard rape children, and we shouldn't buy Blizzard games. This is all just rate the game as the game, right, and do everything else kind of separately. I don't know. Because I want to go to review sites and I want to read about all this other stuff. That's very important. But as far as a number goes, because the number is meaningless once you add all these different things. I just want the number to represent how good the game is if I'm able to play it as it's intended.
Interesting. Okay. Uh, anyways, get the game. I think everyone should get the game. But once again, this is just me. All right, this is just one fanatic's opinion of it. It plays really well. You guys can get some of my gear that I don't need because I will be doing a ton of runs. But that's it for Diablo 2. I can't believe we're here. I honestly can't believe we're at a point where it was announced, it looked good in alpha, and now that it's out, I'm having so much fun playing it. It's really everything I could have expected from a strict remake, as in just a skin, right? It's literally a skin, and it's fantastic. So very happy with it. I'm going to be playing it for a good amount of time, and I'll be streaming it as well. So if you're interested in that, I will be definitely streaming it quite a lot, especially in this coming week. Catch one of the streams. If you guys have questions, I have a wealth, way too much knowledge about this game that I'm happy to share with you guys.
All right, that's a wrap for the Lightforge. Until next week, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. See you guys.